This is Q13 News This Morning with Kaci and Travis.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here. You're watching Q13 News with, as you heard the man say, Kaci and Travis.
Is that us?
I think it is. I'm Travis.
I'm Kaci, so that works. Here's what we're focusing on for you this half hour. If someone has $25 million to their name, are they rich? I thought this was an easy question, but it's not. Those with that much money don't believe they are. Coming up, the surprising reason as to why the rich see themselves is impacting a huge national debate about inequality.
Yeah, plus DuckTales is back. Disney remaking the beloved cartoon, but have you ever wondered how Scrooge actually swims through the gold in his money bin? We're gonna ask science for a final ruling, if it's actually possible.
This is why we like science.
Yep.
And small talk. Are you as bad at it as we are? We're turning to our life coach for help. Boy, do we need it.
Oh, do we ever? I'm terrible at it. In the meantime, we are going to start with this story. Apple unveiling its new products this week, including the new $1,000 iPhone. But is it worth $1,000?
That was definitely my first question. The iPhone 10 boasts Apple's highest camera technology yet, including facial recognition. That means you can essentially unlock your phone just by looking at it. Other high-tech perks, wireless charging, new display technology, a 5.8-inch screen.
But this is $999. That's $1,000 to get this. So we asked tech expert Rich DeMiro if it was worth the investment.
Well, the problem is a phone really isn't an investment because the value of it goes down over time. But on the flip side, we do use our phones probably more than any other gadget that we purchase. So $1,000 is not unreasonable for a phone that you use for 2 years. Plus, the price is sort of in line with what we're seeing from other flagship devices like the Note 8 from Samsung. It doesn't mean that phones are going to be $1,000 from here on out, but I think that the price is sort of the going rate for the best top-of-the-line device that a company is offering at this point.
Yes, but Rich, are really the bells and whistles worth this? Necessary?
Something like the Animoji, which is that animated emoji face. It's cool. It's not a must-have feature that's going to make you purchase the phone, but when you get it, and Apple's really good at this, it's sort of one of those little delights that is on your phone, and it's exclusive to the iPhone 10, and you can send it to your friends and have a good time with it. It kind of reminds me of all the masks that we're seeing on other applications like Snapchat, Instagram, and Facebook, so there's plenty of other ways to get something similar, but again, it's Apple, and you see your friends using it, and you want to use it too.
The delight, as he said. Apple is so good at that, making you realize, no, I do need this. Now, the iPhone 10 doesn't start shipping until November 3rd, and if $1,000 is still too steep, the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus were also announced. Those start at more like $699.
I want one. I do, and I want all those features, but $1,000 feels very prohibitive.
Everybody I talk to, though, is like, well, but look at what you spend now.
Yeah.
It's just a hop, skip, and a jump.
That's the problem. They've like walked us right up to the line, raising the price every time, and here we are forking over $1,000. Okay, we want to know what you think about this. Tyler, is that what we're talking about on Facebook this morning?
Yeah, the $1,000 starting price, that doesn't even include accessories or tax. So when you factor that in, you're looking at $1,200 to $1,400 for the iPhone 10. It's painful. So we want to know on our Facebook page, are you willing to spend that? And how often do you upgrade your phone? Maybe you wait until the screen's shattered and it barely powers on before you upgrade. Let us know on Facebook.
All right, thank you, Tyler. So if you have a lot of money, and $1,000 for an iPhone seems like nothing, you want to show it off with 10 iPhones, right? That's where the phrase conspicuous consumption comes from, after all.
But it actually might not be true. It could be impacting the national debate we're having about that growing gap between rich and poor. Sociology professor Rachel Sherman penned this new book. It's called Uneasy Street. She argues that a majority of the rich and affluent in this country don't want to be seen that way.
This is so interesting. In this essay adapted for the New York Times, Sherman writes that she actually interviewed a whole number of folks with millions of dollars in net worth who all refused to call themselves wealthy. Yeah, actual millionaires who said, nope, we're middle class, we're not affluent. One person even wanted to cancel the interview when she said they were called affluent. Families go out of their ways, she says, to actually hide price tags on items they buy so their nanny and staff members won't see how much they spend on bread or cheese. They also really brag about finding bargains so they seem like they are middle class like the rest of us. But Professor Sherman says by doing this, they actually take away the opportunity for all of us to have a real conversation in many ways about who really is rich, who really is middle class, and who really is poor. So the bottom line here is those with privilege, if they can't admit they have privilege, how can we ever have an honest conversation about what inequality is in this country and whether we should address it and how?
It seems to be that we reward as a society people who downplay so much, where it's like, no. Me? No, I would never.
Right. It's like we've come full circle from the go-go 80s where now, yes, you may be rich, but certainly I'm not showing it off. I'm middle class like everybody else.
Just like you.
Yep.
Well, the much talked about Equifax data hack put the social security numbers of about 143 million Americans at risk. Now, crooks can use that number to steal your identity and then do other things like apply for loans, credit cards, even get your tax refund. Well, experts are now questioning, why do we even use the social security number as a primary source of identification? Well, the reason? No one's really come up with a viable alternative. However, there is discussion about using iris scans, facial identification, voice recognition, even fingerprints. There is a problem with those ideas, though. Think about it. If someone steals your username or password for your email account, you just get rid of those and make a new one. But if someone steals your fingerprint or your facial image, that's kind of out of your control forever. You can't go get a new face. At least not now you can't.
Oh.
So far, there have been a lot of options thrown out, but they would all take a lot of time. So experts say in the meantime, we really need to keep those social security numbers as a form of identification, but we shouldn't be relying on them to prove who we are.
It could give getting a new face a whole new meaning.
Yeah.
All right, coming up in weeks, or a week rather, the reboot of the kids' 80s and 90s classic. It's the cartoon we've all been waiting for since childhood, DuckTales.
Might solve the mystery, or rewrite history. DuckTales.
Oh, Disney totally remaking DuckTales the cartoon series. It debuts later this month, September 23rd, but one thing has always perplexed us. Okay, it's really perplexed me for a long time. It is specifically how in the world could lead character Scrooge McDuck do this? Dive into his money bin and swim through his gold coins and not seriously hurt himself. Look, I actually may have tried to do this when I was a small child, and I couldn't. I even piled up all of the gifts one Christmas and jumped into it off the fireplace mantle. It didn't work, so we did a bunch of research and discovered science makes it impossible. I wasn't wrong as a seven-year-old. Mental Floss talked to a physics professor who explained gold is granular like sand, and just like sand, can't swim or dive in it. In fact, diving into it would be like diving into concrete. It would hurt. To accomplish this, the friction between the coins would need to be lower, which is basically how a ball pit for kids might work. So if they were hollow coins and light coins, maybe. But even if you add a whole bunch of lubricant to the coins, science says that actually wouldn't even do it, because it would basically be like a bowl of M&Ms and you shove your hand into it.
Right.
If you can dive into it, but good luck moving around. It's way too difficult. You're not swimming in those M&Ms.
You know what I'm going to get you for your birthday? A kiddie pool filled with chocolate gold coins. Because you can swim through those.
Oh.
They're light enough that I think you could do it.
It's all I've ever
I hope I
wanted
didn't
to do.
give bad ideas for parents out there. But just think about it.
I love it.
Think about it. Filled with chocolate coins.
Listen to us making small talk.
Oh, we did it, but we know each other. We'd call each other out if it was terrible.
It's true, but for many of us, there is nothing more awkward than small talk, especially when it is between strangers.
Is there a way to master it, please? Harvard researchers do think so. We found this article about it over the summer in the Huffington Post. Now, the studies that they did looked at hundreds of online and face-to-face conversations between strangers and concluded those who were deemed most likable asked more questions, and specifically more follow-up questions.
Casey, tell me more about that.
Well, I shall, Travis. Thank you, Travis.
But how practical is this advice, and how can we get comfortable with strangers, asking more questions? How can we really get good at small talk to begin with? Our dear friend, life coach Amber Rochelle, is here to help us out. So let's talk about small talk. Why is it so hard?
I think it's always awkward when you're talking to a stranger, right? And as human beings, we tend to be self-conscious in those situations because we want to be liked, we want to make a good impression, but you just don't really know what to expect, right? And it can feel really forced.
The approach is what always scares me to start, because you suddenly have to acknowledge, oh, are we going to chat? So what is the best way to approach small talk with a stranger?
I think the more that you can stop worrying what people think about you, the better it's going to go. I mean, honestly, like, just be yourself, smile, and be friendly. What people really want from you at the end of the day is really just your authentic truth.
I am bad at, I won't even know if I can insert myself into a conversation. I'll just stand next to a crowd of people awkwardly and not know if I can join Is it okay if I just jump into the conversation?
I mean, feel it out, right? It depends on the situation, and you know, just kind of feel it out and trust your gut, and just be yourself. I don't think we need to be so concerned about, you know, what people are going to think about us all the time.
Do you agree with the study that asking follow-up questions is the key to leaving someone with a favorable impression of you?
I think so, yeah. I mean, if you think about it, it feels good when somebody's asking you follow-up questions because it feels like they genuinely care about you, right? And that they're really interested in what you're saying, and then that can kind of ease the discomfort. And not only that, but when you're asking somebody follow-up questions, it can lead to finding a point of commonality, and that really fosters connection between two people.
So here's my follow-up question to you. No, sorry. That was weird and
That was
awkward.
good. That was good.
Can I ever skip small talk since I am so bad at it and, I don't know, just jump right into real talk?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a really highly sensitive person, so for me, I don't like small talk at all. I like more deeper, meaningful conversations. So I think it's just really up to the individual and your level of comfort. Again, just be yourself, right?
On the flip side of it, when I am being myself, I have no problem starting small talk, but I find myself where I take it a little too far, and I love trying to relate to people. So how do you find that line? Or how do you turn back if you've gone past the line where you're revealing more than you intended and you're kind of forcing a deeper conversation? Or is there a way you can tell that that person's okay with it? Like, I'll find myself 3 minutes in and be like, well, one time and you're revealing something super personal. And I can tell, like, maybe they don't feel comfortable with this. Maybe I should have stopped 5 minutes ago. How do you navigate that?
Right. This is a common scenario. Been there, done that many times. Yeah. I think we've all been in that situation. And, you know, again, I just can't emphasize enough, don't worry so much about it. Like, if you notice that the other person seems like they're getting uncomfortable, or if you're thinking, oh, maybe I'm oversharing, that's probably a sign that you want to pull it back a little bit, right? But don't feel too bad about it. I mean, I think that in this day and age, it's better if you open up more. Honestly, that's my belief, is that the more that you open up and the more that you can be vulnerable and authentic, the more that people are going to be attracted to you.
So how do I save somebody who I might be in a small talk conversation with who's clearly less good at it than I am? Can I carry the small talk, or does that make me look bad?
I don't think so. They'll probably appreciate it, right?
I'm sad for you if you're worse than I am at small talk.
Is there a way to pivot if you reach that point where you're like, we're done here? Yeah. Like, you can only, to your point, after a while, it's like, all right, either this needs to become a real conversation or we need to move, like at a party. How do you politely end things and move on?
Exactly, yeah. So, you know, you don't have to make a big deal out of it. You can just be like, hey, you know, it was so lovely chatting with you. I do have to run, but I hope you have a great rest of your day. Or, you know, excuse yourself to the restroom or anything that's just, but don't make a big deal out of it, right? Just clean, just, hey, it was so nice to talk to you. Gotta go.
Make it sound so easy, as always. Thank you for coaching us through life, Amber Rochelle, Life Coach. Thank you very much, AmberRochelle.com for more great advice from Amber.
I feel less stressed now. Thank you. Well, we very often complain that Congress doesn't represent real Americans, real issues, but why is that, and why is that never changing?
The answer may be found in an obscure case headed to the Supreme Court in a matter of weeks. We'll explain that after this.
And Tyler, what are we asking people? What are they saying over on Facebook?
Yeah, are you willing to spend more than $1,000 on a smartphone? People are weighing in on our Facebook page. Debbie says, for that price, better do your laundry, make your coffee, and clean your house. On the flip side, Steve says, if you use it for business like I do, it's well worth it. There's still time to chime in. Head to our Facebook page and we'll read some more of those responses coming up.
Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the White House.
Yeah, but the thing is, Democrats seem to have won in the popular vote. Hillary Clinton won last fall.
How is that even possible? Well, it might be about how the lines on political maps are drawn and who it is that draws them.
So that is why C.R. Douglas, our political analyst, is sitting here on the couch with us.
Hello.
Because the thing is, this is actually going to go before the Supreme Court. There's a huge case here, and it all has to do with gerrymandering, which I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, that word. Here in a brief sort of nutshell is what gerrymandering is. It is drawing congressional districts to your partisan advantage. So it's gaming the system, if you will. This happens every 10 years. You know, we do a census in America every 10 years, and population moves. I mean, some places grow, some places get reduced populations. So you have to sort of move these boundaries. State legislatures are the ones that do it. And listen, every 10 years, there's always someone trying to get partisan advantage.
So where does it become a problem? Where does it cross the line from trying to help and react to becoming a problem?
The big complaint about gerrymandering and these sort of district drawings is that it makes Congress unrepresentative. that you have some states that are sending congressional delegations that don't really represent the partisan makeup of their communities. And we see this all over the place, but let me point out one state where this is particularly egregious, North Carolina. It's probably the most gerrymandered state in the country. You have kind of a swing state, kind of purple. They've had Republican governors, Democratic governors, Republican senators, Democratic senators. You'd never know it's purple from their delegation. 13 members of Congress, 10 are Republican, 3 are Democrat. And here's why. Let's look at a map of one of their congressional districts.
Oh, my goodness.
This contorted, whatever you want to call it, is a district. And what the Republican state legislature did is create a district where you put as many Democrats as you possibly can by creating these lines that took in these Democratic strongholds. So they concentrated Democrats all in this one district so that they're not in any of the neighboring districts. They did that with 3 districts, and that's why you get this case where you have kind of a purple state, but yet only 3 of the districts in North Carolina of the 13 are Republican, are Democrat rather, and that's because they created these weird districts. It is not the only place, and it's not the only party that's offending. The Democrats do it too. Maryland, this is basically a blue state. I mean, it's got a Republican governor, but it kind of leans blue, but you know, there are plenty of Republicans there. You wouldn't know it from their map. They got 8 members of Congress, 7 are Democrats, only 1 is a Republican, and here's why. Look at this district. This is a blue district. It was actually created by Democrats. It was stolen, if you will, in the eyes of Republicans. It used to be a Republican district, but the Democrats carved out this head of a dragon you see down there on the right by D.C. That brought in some Democratic strongholds. So what was once a Republican district became a Democratic district, and you have almost the entire Maryland delegation that is Democrat.
Is this a problem here?
It is not really a problem in Washington, and here's why. We have an independent commission that draws our boundaries, not the state legislature. About 6 states do it with independent commissions. So it ends up being more fair. So we are, you know, a blue state, but of our 10 members of Congress, 6 are Democrat, 4 Republican. That's probably roughly the makeup of the population. And even one of those Democratic districts is kind of a swing district. So you could have a situation where you could easily have 5 Democrats, 5 Republicans in Washington. We don't have a gerrymandering problem like many other states. And that's because we have an independent commission.
Maybe I'm just thinking of this in a childlike way, but I see those maps and I picture someone just haphazardly throwing paint against a wall. So how does this happen, and what can we do about it?
It's anything but haphazard, because they have fine-tuned computer algorithms that literally go precinct by precinct to determine where the Democratic strongholds are, where the Republican strongholds is. So there is a whole industry that has been created to help draw these districts.
But it seems like they can just do it. So how do we prevent that from happening?
Well, there is a case now before the United States Supreme Court that's trying to put an end to this. And it comes out of Wisconsin, where a Republican state legislature created boundaries that advantage them. And the Democrats basically are calling foul. So they've taken this case to courts. The Supreme Court will hear it next month, and they could potentially throw out a lot of these districts that were gerrymandered.
So up until now, the gerrymandering cases I've heard about are like racial based. This is political gerrymandering?
Yes, we definitely have cases that have come to the court where, and these mainly come from the South, where in a lot of cases there were attempts to put African Americans, kind of clump them all into one district to sort of isolate their power, or conversely, spread them all around into a bunch of districts to diffuse their power. The Supreme Court has said that is not allowed. You can't do it by race. What we've never had, and what this case will decide, is whether you can draw these boundaries with partisanship in mind, not race in mind, but whether you're Republican or Democrat. Can these partisan districts be legal under the Constitution?
If we're looking at the United States as a whole, you gave us examples of both parties, but as of right now, is there any one party that is standing to benefit from this more than the other?
If you look at the way gerrymandering have happened since the last census, Republicans have really gained the system better. And that is because they control most of the state legislatures. And because state legislatures are where these boundaries are mostly drawn, the ones who control the state legislatures draw the boundaries. So if it gets thrown out by the Supreme Court, if you will, Republicans are the ones that are going to lose most because they've been winning most in the recent years.
Okay, because I just have to ask, gerrymandering, where does that name even come from?
It's crazy, isn't it? It actually has a origin that makes a little bit of sense. This guy named Jerry used to be the governor of Massachusetts back in 1820, I think it was, and he tried to create a district that advantaged his party back in Massachusetts, and he got lambasted because it looked like, many thought, a salamander, kind of like some of these districts we just saw. So forever since that time, gerrymander, as in Jerry and salamander, has been kind of this this way of describing this way of gaming the system by boundary drawing.
I'll never look at a salamander the same way again.
Or a Jerry.
Or a Jerry.
C.R. Douglas, our political analyst, thank you very much for being here. We know you'll help us track this case as it moves forward.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it. And the Seahawks getting ready for the home opener. 49ers heading to town Sunday's game. But what are the keys to ensure the Hawks clinch this one?
We're going to tick through them next. But first, take a look at your screen. This is your weekend trivia that all of us argue about here on set, and hopefully you do at home. We're going to have the answer coming up on the other side of this break.
All right, there it is, your weekend trivia. Barbie's last name, Roberts. What is Ken's last name?
We all decided to come up with different answers, so we've all guessed Miller, Williams, or Carson.
Yeah.
So the answer is, hopefully it's one
What
of
is it,
those.
producer Bavisha? Carson.
Hey, good job,
Ken
Tyler.
Carson.
Oh, so you cheated.
Well, then never mind.
So I picked the last one I would guess.
Okay.
We're very serious about our trivia.
Well, we hope you got it at home. The Seahawks getting ready for their home opener against the San Francisco 49ers after a tough loss in Green Bay.
I know, I'm trying to pretend it didn't happen. So what do the Hawks need to do to come away with a win?
We asked Seahawks Game Days Ian Furness for his keys to the game. The first, stop Carlos Hyde. The 49ers running back is the only real player for that team. If you can stop him, we got a pretty good chance.
Now, this is one that we've been saying quite a bit. Get Jimmy Graham going.
Go!
The tight end only had 3 catches for 8 yards last week. And run Rawls.
Run Rawls.
Please. Thomas Rawls needs to be the man at running back. He had a 200-yard game against the 49ers 2 years ago, so we'll see if he can bring that back and do it again.
Okay, so we are also talking about the iPhone. We've been asking you about, is $1,000 too much to pay for a new iPhone? What are folks saying on Facebook?
Yes.
Tyler? It is too much to
They're
pay.
saying it's too much.
And we're done.
Unanimously.
Yes.
We're all done.
A
See
lot
you
of
later.
people. Actually, Jeff says, you guys don't get it. The iPhone 7 Plus started at almost $800. We need to stop calling these phones. It's our main computer. And if I think about it, I mean, that's
True.
what I'm
That's
using
true.
day and night, all day long, more than my desk computer, more than a computer at home, or a tablet even.
So if I compare it to my Surface tablet, which I think I paid like $1,500 for, and if it does the same thing, then maybe it is worth it.
Yeah, the only thing is you might keep your tablet a few years longer than maybe a phone. We get into that upgrade cycle. Stacy points out other phones are priced near this too. The Note 8 is $930. Nobody was complaining about that as far as I heard.
Oh, I would complain about that.
Maybe nobody's getting that phone. I don't know. That might be it.
I just know what's going to happen. I'm going to say it's too expensive, and then 6 months from now, it's going to seem not as expensive.
Right. Everyone's going to get it, and I'm going to really want it.
I'm already spending $800 on the 7 Plus. What's $200?
Oh, it's fine.
It's just going to be a slight upgrade.
You'll go in and think you're going to get the lesser model, and then they'll be like, oh, but look at this cool emoji thing, and look at this facial recognition. Okay, fine.
And we have another month to think about it and salivate over it.
Oh, my goodness. Thank you, Tyler. Thank you, everybody. We're here every Friday, every Saturday morning. Join us, and join us over on Facebook. Go Hawks.